Sure.
Okay, however
A
you
little
want
bit
to say it.
French.
And
A little bit
can you
French.
explain where the name came from? Because this is a
Yeah, it's
Lydia
actually
special.
I created a YouTube channel and I named it Gauche Caviar. What are we doing?
Oh well, we're gonna talk about hmm,
Well, I'm gonna do my makeup because I actually have to work in a little bit. And there's a convenient mirror in front of me.
there you go. Perfect. Yeah, I suppose we introduce ourselves and talk about what we want to talk about before we talk about it.
Sure.
Something like that.
You go right
So
ahead. Tell us about yourself.
let's start with the name of our podcast is Gauche Caviar. Am I saying that right?
I would say Gauche Caviar, but sure.
Okay, however
A
you
little
want
bit
to say it.
French.
And
A little bit
can you
French.
explain where the name came from? Because this is a
Yeah, it's
Lydia
actually
special.
I created a YouTube channel and I named it Gauche Caviar. Um and you know what? And here we are going to be doing a video podcast, so I'm start editing again. The editing was quite a lot for me, and I didn't really get. I made 3 episodes. How the for me the production quality is pretty high, but and in one of the videos I explained where it came from. So I had a person. They're no longer my friend. I might talk about that later. They're far more radical than I am, and I pissed them off. But anyway, um, they're one of those people who, and I actually don't disagree with this concept, but they're a critic instead of a leader. So they just criticize everything and they don't really present solutions. They don't see that as their job.
Yeah,
That makes
yeah.
sense. And that's fine. But then when people start talking about solutions, I think it's probably a little bit better to then just like not insult everybody. But I asked, well, what's the solution to a problem? I agreed with that there was a problem. And I was like, well, what's the solution? Because, power and vacuums and all that stuff. And they insulted me. And anyways, it's a thing, but Chicago is fun. But regardless, before that, I really liked a lot of the things she said. But someone was talking about, I love skincare and makeup. Someone was talking about the skincare cream, La Mer, very expensive. So this person said you can get Nivea. Nivea is La Mer Gauche Caviar. And I was like, what does that mean? And I like Googled it. I'm like, that sounds so cool. Is this a brand? Gauche Caviar? I knew
Oh
what
my,
gauche meant. It meant like rude or
yeah.
like out of sorts with society. Like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing, how gauche, right? It's a French word, and that's exactly what it means. It means like not quite like embarrassing. How gauche. So gauche caviar. Well, it means left. Also, and French it means left. So gauche caviar means you're a lefty who eats who likes caviar. Fish eggs. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's a pejorative for like radical chic or champagne socialist. So it's saying
Cocktail Democrat, but maybe not that bad.
yeah, so it's saying you're a hypocrite if you are lefty. So just like, a lot of people decide to own the pejorative, I try to own the pejorative. So like I would love it if socialists could ride in um limousines and could pop bottles. Like I'm all about that. So I believe that it's okay and not necessarily hypocritical to try to have better living under capitalism. And so I'm owning Gauche Caviar. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
That
So
makes sense. I guess one of the questions I have is like I wouldn't necessarily see this though as like a centrist podcast, like
I'm not
or a
centrist
or
at all.
proposing like because I think that like by what you said it'd be easy to mistake that. It's like I'm with you though that like listen, on the one hand, so I look at this from both sides, which I do. I like to look at things in a dialectic. I mean, maybe even though I'm not a very good Hegelian because I don't know Hegel very well, like it's just sort of in my blood, like from my background. We can talk about that, but in a second, like of my graduate studies and this and that. But like on the one hand, I think that our imagination needs to be much more radical. I don't think we even dare to imagine the world as being different. So as far as being radical, I think our imagination could imagine a lot more creative solutions to the problems that we have like today. At the same time though, politics is about like compromises and getting shit done even in when it's not perfect, right? So
Yes,
I don't think that you can be such a hard ass or like so hardcore that if you don't get everything exactly your way, you just take nothing. That
that's
doesn't
right.
work out. Like
Yes.
I agree that like centrists have compromised away so much, like, but like I yeah, I think that there's a tension. Is you can call it a dialectic or a tension or a back and forth, whatever you want to call it, between having our ideals and figuring out how to make shit work even in less than ideal circumstances. So I like that, and I also think that like I mean, there's that statement. Forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head who said it. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism,
Mhm.
and that doesn't mean we just stop eating, though. You know what I
No,
mean? Unfortunately, it means we need to change things, but we just unfortunately have to live in sort of a compromised state. So I'm with you there.
I believe in that quite a bit. I kind of developed it after I would see, that common refrain. Like, I remember debating with someone about solar, right? And they said, well, you take plastic to make solar panels. And I'm like, so? And they also said, oh, did you know solar panels were net negative up until like 10 years ago? And I said, wait, they're no longer in that negative. That's fantastic. Yay, progress. And he was
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
what? And I was like, that's exactly where I'm getting at. Like we, and it's kind of funny, like this person who, really introduced me to Gauche Caviar kind of saw me as someone who like, I'm okay with a critic who doesn't have a solution. And it's okay for us to say there's something wrong with this system. Although I am very interested in finding solutions, I do know that it is okay to say there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, even if I don't exactly know what ethical consumption would look like. I mean, I've got ideas, you have ideas, but exactly. So Gauche Caviar is definitely an acknowledgement of the hypocrisy that we must
Yeah.
go through in order to have a better world. I cannot make a better world without living in this one. I'm going to fly on an airplane. I'm going to ride in a car. I still don't believe we should be fun, like powering our society in the back of dead dinosaurs. When the sun gives us free energy. Like I know that we're going to have petrochemicals to make solar panels, but it's just acknowledging that we have an ambivalent situation.
Yeah, I like that.
That's where the term came from, and we can change it. It gets people asking
No, we don't need to
questions.
change it. I like the word you use, like the ambivalence, because it is a lot of politics and a lot of talking about politics feels very ambivalent because you just want things to be better and they're not. And that doesn't mean though that like things can't be better than they are now, right? Like I think
Right.
people give up hope because they're like, ah, this and that. And it's like by all means have your ideals, but there's a part of me, and I've been this person to just sit and criticize without coming up with solutions forever. And I very much felt that as getting my PhD is a lot of that. And that's okay. I think that realm needs to exist, but that person's annoying too because they don't. The thing is, like, it's like the art critic, right? Like I never really watched that show, but I can imagine like how it goes. Like it's like to some point you appreciate the critic's view and like what they do, but like I get it from the artist's point of view too. Like, but you're not making fucking art. Go out and make some art and then criticize me, right? Then tell me what it feels like. And so it's some people say that artists and like literary scholars don't make good critics, but like I think they do. It's just they do it in a different way because they bring it from a creative point of view. They criticize other artwork or they criticize society through their art rather than writing according to the critics' rules. I don't know if this tangent is making sense to you, but like that's kind of how I look at it. I think of like the leftist that just criticizes everything is kind of like the art critic, where they have good things to say and you might agree with them, but it's sort of like, I guess, going back to that idea of praxis. It's like, are you fucking working at the food bank? Are you actually organizing? Are you actually doing anything? Or are you just sitting on the sidelines yelling at everybody to do better? Like,
As long as
which
they're
person
voting, I'm
are
okay
you
with
on this
that.
team?
Honestly, as long as they're voting, I'm okay with it. But yes, I think those same things. Just like, a lot of people, it's funny, I get people who like try to like test my metal, if you will. Is that the right? They're like,
Uh-huh.
what do you do? And I'm like, don't even start with me. Like,
Oh,
if
really?
I wanted to prove my bona fide, I do a lot of stuff. But they're just like, well, you can't say anything until you're, I don't know, doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, I do that stuff, and you still don't want to listen to me. So,
So I think that it's funny because that reminds me of, like, in Mormonism, I didn't learn about this in Mormonism. I learned about it in ex-Mormonism, I guess, through Reddit probably, but it's the no true Scotsman argument, right? Like, oh, no true Scotsman would do this. It's like no true leftist would do this, and suddenly you're gatekeeping what it means to be part of a coalition, and it's a nonsensical, like, fallacy, right? Like, because there's no way to prove what a true Scotsman is, because nobody sets that standard. There's no rule book, there's no committee, like, and even if there
I,
is,
I,
we
I tell people
we
all the
very
time that
very
there's a
very
committee.
much are skeptical of them anyway. But what were you gonna say?
I tell people all the time they're a committee. So, let's go a little bit back to introductions. So this is Jackie. Jackie is my friend. I've been Jackie's friend since I was 7. You were 6, right?
I think I might have been, yeah,
Yeah,
5 or 6,
we're born in
yeah.
81.
I was born in 83, so
83. So you're
yeah.
3. Oh, because you're younger
I was
than
gonna say
my
I was
brother.
4, wasn't I? I'm 3 years younger than you. Yeah, that's what I thought, but I
Oh,
wasn't
okay. I
sure.
thought you were 1
You
year.
made
Okay,
me
so
doubt myself for a minute.
I feel like you were in kindergarten when I was in
No, I
second
was
grade.
4 when we moved to Delano, so I think you've been my friend since I was 4.
Okay, I babysat. uh,
Yeah.
anyway, so we were talking about, I don't know, a year ago, I want to say, about some things. And then about a month ago, Jackie was like, let's do a podcast, because there was just a lot of things to talk about and we could talk a lot. So we decided, well, let's start recording them. But anyway, so what was I saying? I was going to say.
You were introducing.
Yes, but there's a reason I was introducing. Okay, so this is Jackie.
Yes, I'm Jackie.
I'm
Hi.
Lydia, Lydia Terry. And I was going somewhere with this. I don't remember what.
Well, let me help you out. So we grew up Mormon.
Oh, that's right. It was a
And
Mormonism. So we grew up Mormon.
okay.
We're neither of us are Mormon anymore. Very much not Mormon, but we have a lot. We have a shared background. So we're also going to talk quite a bit. So we're going to talk. Well, so there's. We'll talk about that in a second. But so we have a shared background in Mormonism, but there are 2 things that we want to talk about mostly. Mormonism is going to be part of the backdrop. I want to talk about power. And Jackie wants to talk about, what do you want to talk about, Jackie?
Well, I want to hear about what you want to talk about power first,
Okay,
and then
so
I'm gonna
power,
add on to it.
yeah, so power, I think about power a lot. I think about, like, why power is so hypocritical. I mean, I guess we're owning our hypocrisy, but why power is so hypocritical. So, for example, I was really kind of like, I've been thinking about it for years, years and years and years, but I really asked myself this question, and I just had this epiphany when I saw a group. They said they were like Christians against the Little Mermaid, and it was just like, what does Jesus have to do with, and they're against a black Little Mermaid. Let's be
Yeah,
clear. Not the
clearly,
Little
clearly.
Mermaid. They love a white Little Mermaid. What was it about Christianity and a black Little Mermaid that had anything? Why does Jesus care? And I was just like, but there was a part of me that got it. And I was just like, if I
Okay.
understand this, then there's something there that everyone understands. We're just not saying what it is. And so I do this a lot. I'm like, if there's, so for example, if something just like, if you are like that tracks, but then you like turn it around and you flip it around and that doesn't track, there is something unsaid and I want to say it. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll talk
All
about
right, so I need you to explain your example more. What do you mean that what was the part of it that you got?
okay. I understood that this is likely a group that would exist. I was like, yeah, that makes sense that this group would exist. Bunch
Mm.
of evangelical Christians are mad about the black mermaid. That at first, like if I was a robot, so sometimes I think if I was a robot or an alien, I'd be go, that's weird, but I'm a human being. I'm like, no, I can see how that happened. Why? I don't agree with it at all, of course.
Yeah,
But
and
why
I
do I
thought you didn't, but I was
understand
like,
that that
where are we
tracks?
going with this? Yeah. So.
Okay, hegemony. It's hegemony. Okay. So hegemony is the dominant power culture, right?
Yeah.
So in our culture, we're American. The hegemony is white, male, Christian, straight, cis, able-bodied, neurotypical. I'm probably forgetting something in it. So it's privileged. Okay. So
Yeah.
society is built for the hegemony, which is why you can get things like, you can get the hegemony saying things like, well, why do we need gay marriage? They have the same rights as everyone else. They can get married just like I can get married. They just want extra things. The hegemony says bizarre things like that because society is set up for the hegemony. So yes, but the difference between a gay person being able to marry a straight person, and I'm sure you have plenty to say about this, is that's not what they want. So what the straight person gets and the gay person doesn't get, even though on paper they're identical, is that society has been set up for the straight person. So if society works for you, you're part of the hegemony. So
Yeah.
Christianity, society works for Christianity, society works for straight people, society works for able-bodied people, you're the hegemony. So when you attack the hegemony, or just simply decenter it. That's all Disney did, is they decentered a white girl with a black girl. That's it. There was no attacking of anything. They feel attacked. So once you attack one part of the hegemony, you attack all of it. So when they displaced a white mermaid with a black mermaid, Christians felt that Christianity itself was under attack. This, okay, I'm going to say something bizarre. It's that stupid. It is literally fucking that stupid, and once you see it, you'll see it everywhere.
No, and this, so that's a good segue into one, introducing myself, and just also what I want to talk about. And it's this, like, so originally I had thought to talk about, and you're gonna ask me about this too, about gender panic. I have noticed this crisis going on in society where like you get like joke Reddits like, is it gay if you touch your own dick? Like, and it's a funny joke, but it's like,
Is it
that's
gay if
the
you love your
level
wife?
of like hysteria that has, which I'm purposefully using that word for men because it needs to be used. Hysteria around like, is this gay? Is this no homo? Like all this stuff. But the more you unpack it, like this example of the Little Mermaid, or the other day, like I think I sent you a quote, which I'll go back to later, where basically like, oh, it was Donald Trump Jr. and he was equating effeminate men with Hamas. And you're like, what a bizarre like linking of like trans activists, effeminate men, a perceived terrorist organization, and like all of these things because they want all of it. Like it's like the right's rhetoric is like unhinged right now, but like the example is perfect because they really do just take anything that decenters their hegemony as an attack. And like it's so interesting, like the example you used about gay marriage, because that comes to our backgrounds of like growing up gay. Like I'm divorced, and I was married to a woman, and I'm, I wouldn't call myself gay anymore because I'm non-binary, but I certainly identified as gay before I identified as pansexual, because I'm primarily attracted to men, but I'm attracted to all genders. So it just depends, right? Like it's like, but that aside, like the discourse around the Mormon church's like anti-gay marriage like propaganda was basically that gay men, simply by existing and getting married, were attacking the family. And like it's ridiculous, but people bought into it because they 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 twisted the words to be like, I mean, we can unpack this in several episodes really, but like,
doesn't it make sense once you realize that any attack on the power structure is seen an attack on all of the power structure?
yeah.
Like you can look at almost all right wing reaction to that.
Well,
Hamas
yeah, and so
is marginalized. Effeminate men are marginalized. That's why he makes the equation.
Yeah.
It's literally that stupid. Once you see it, you're like, oh, these guys are idiots.
No, yeah. And so I certainly will bring my perspective as someone who studied queer theory in grad school, but other critical thoughts into it. And honestly, I'm neurodivergent and I have a disability, so I'm not going to perfectly remember everything. So it's going to be a little bit of
So
a theory soup
marginalized.
here. But at the same time, like, I can't simply focus on gender in the way that gender is a power structure because it's connected. It's all connected.
Well, it's the
I
moment.
remember reading a book in my media and cultural studies class that I TA'd for about white patriarchal capitalism. And I thought it was interesting. Like, it gets to be kind of cumbersome when we're critically talking about things, but it makes a good point that the things are actually way more connected than meets the eye sometimes, that you really can't just attack from one angle when you're doing a critical view of hegemony. And like just one other note on hegemony that I remember that I'll throw in there from my readings is that like the interesting thing about hegemonic discourse is it starts to get reproduced by people who aren't even in that hegemonic group, right?
True.
And
like Candace Williams, or like a lot of women who are like, so a lot of women, sorry to interrupt you, is that okay?
No, it's okay.
So a lot of women will look at marriage as a contract between, they trade sex and parent and motherhood, being a mother for a man, mother of a person, of a man's life, wife and mother. They'll trade that for the perks of patriarchy. So they're like, if I'm sexy, then a man will pay for me,
Well, and like
You know what I mean?
it's not the same, but at the same time, like you think about like gay Republicans, like
Gay
log cabin
Republicans.
Republicans, like they think that by even though they're condemned and marginalized, and sure, the right will use them when it's convenient, like they did with like Milo, who then just went off unhinged and whatever. But he's a very weird case to bring up. But I'm just saying they love the gay Republican when they can use them for their purposes, but like they're still totally marginalized, but they think that they'll be accepted if they're like, well, I may be gay but I'm still a Republican. And it's like, I'm gay but I'm still Mormon. And I've seen that version too. And this isn't, I'm not coming for all of you gay Mormons right now, although in a way I am, I suppose, accidentally. It's just
You can
like
just
it's so
leave. You absolutely can just leave. The Mormon church is not true. It's easily debunked. Spend 20 minutes, it's debunked. You can just leave. Like, just
no, I
go
know.
be happy. Like, I don't know, you only get one life. There is no afterlife. Well, there is. If there is an afterlife, God's not a horrible, hateful person. She will be fine with you leaving. Okay? Just leave. But yeah, you go ahead. I'll come for him. You don't have to.
No. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's not my purpose right now. It's just like, but there's all of these ways that people. But the thing is, like, I try to not blame those people. Like it's very easy to be judgmental, but I try to step back and say, and bring in my little Buddhist background, my little baby budding Buddhist background and Zen Buddhism, because I don't listen. There could be an afterlife. There could be reincarnation. I'm kind of like an agnostic Buddhist. It's like whether reincarnation exists or not, it's not going to change the way I act right now. I'm still going to like try to center myself and be kind to people and be kinder to myself. If that means that I get reincarnated as a slime or whatever the fuck it is, that's cool. But if it also just all ends, that's cool too. It doesn't, like, I'm not hung up on the esoteric. I think it's fascinating. It's cool to talk about. If people want to get into that, that's awesome. But to me, the practical value of living every day and taking care of each other is way more, the ethical part of that is way more important than anything esoteric. And like, yeah. So I think that, coming back to what I was saying, like, I don't think it's helpful to blame. It's almost like blaming the victim, right? These people are victims of a discourse and a power structure that disproportionately like affects them. And unfortunately, they have chosen the response, or I don't know if they've chosen is the right word, taken the
I think
response that
after the age of
actively harms
18,
themselves. There
chose.
is choice, but it's complicated, right? I think it's nuanced and it's complicated, but it's hard to unpack a hegemonic discourse to somebody that doesn't have any tools to challenge that, right? And there's, I mean, we can get into like how that can happen later. There's a really good theorist named Stuart Hall that talks about it. Decoding is in encoding is the essay, I think, but that's a whole, a lot. There's a lot to unpack with that. But basically, just the TLDR is that there's like different levels where you'll sort of negotiate with it and say parts of it aren't true, parts of it are true, and then finally get to,
Did you
there's
do
people
that
that
for
just
a
eat it
while?
up, and then people that just, yeah, of course, and
I
then
didn't.
people,
Once I was gone, I was gone. But
I
I
envy
know a
that.
lot of people do that.
I very much tried to a lot of mental gymnastics to make Mormonism work. And then finally there's the, you hear the message and you're like, yeah, that's bullshit. And for me, the the moment that I read just about, because this is my mentality, like I read just about everything that had ever been said about homosexuality by Mormon church leaders, because Mormons believe that their leaders literally talk for God, right? And that's a tall claim, especially when they're saying batshit crazy stuff like it's like the Tower of Babel to go to the moon. That's Joseph F. Smith, I believe. But like, so like you can't have it both ways, right? Like you can't say that our leaders talk for God, but when they don't, they're talking as men. It's like, okay, but then like, but that, I mean, that we're digressing a bit, but like my
Yeah.
point is, when I got to gay marriage, and I know you had something to say, but let me just finish this thought. Like when it came to gay marriage, but just homosexuality in general, like there, my true self just said, yeah, that's bullshit. Like, I know what they're saying is wrong, and I can't make this work no matter how many mental gymnastics I do, because I know that I'm living this experience and I know what they're saying is wrong. So what do I do about that? And I felt I had this strange experience where I prayed and I heard a voice say it's okay to be gay. And I was like 17. And it's like it's so strange because like I don't even know what that means, because I don't know what I believe about God. But the fact is I needed that reassurance then to know that I wasn't crazy, that knowing that it was a like that being gay was not a bad thing. So yeah.
I love that. And I'm never going to sit here and tell you that that wasn't real.
Yeah.
I believe it's real. And
Thanks.
I don't want to diminish what you just said, but I do want to tell you about a spiritual experience that I had that has to do with you. Okay?
Please.
I don't know if I told you this before, but your family went out of town and we had to babysit your hamster. Do you remember
No, but tell me.
this? Okay. Hamster got out. And I was so upset because it was your hamster or it was your brother's. I'm not sure. But I was like, oh my God, this isn't even my pet. This is my dear friend's pet.
Probably mine, yeah.
So I knelt down beside my bed. Do you remember my room and how I had two like twin beds? Because I was literally a twin. I sat between those two twin beds and prayed to find your hamster. As I was saying, in the name of Jesus Christ, amen, I felt little feet on the back of my
Oh my God.
legs as I was kneeling, right? So this is me kneeling, right? This is my
Yeah.
legs. The little hamster climbed on. How do you
Oh my
not
God.
praise God for like, I think that experience probably bought me 5 more years. Like, how do you deny that?
Yeah, her name was Katie Georgette. She would like chew through the plastic all the time. So annoying.
I was like, well, God help me find Jackie's hamster. So God,
Ew. There you go.
like, thanks. You bought me like 5 more years. I never told you that story. I probably was afraid that you would be mad
You
at me
brought.
and lost your
Of
hamster.
course, I'm not gonna be mad at you now about that, but
It's not funny.
that's great. Yeah,
Yeah. So
I love that.
I that happened. Is it a coincidence? What if there is the divine, I believe the divine is loving and not judgmental. It makes logical sense to me. You talk about what is it, Voltaire or Descartes or Pascal's wager. That's what it is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
There you
Descartes
go.
gamble. I don't know. Someone said something.
No,
And they're like,
Pascal's wager. Yeah, I like
okay.
this.
So to me, you only get one life. So why would you bet it on a terrible, evil God instead of betting that? To me, the more logical wager is to bet that if there is a God, God would be loving and accepting and the best of humanity. So anytime someone says God believes the terrible shit that I believe, I'm like, yeah, I'm not falling for that. Like, to me, what I don't understand about hateful ideologies, and they say they believe in God, is what are they going to do when God's like, wait, what did you think Brigham Young was a terrible, murderous people who literally killed the Timpanogos children. What the hell? Why would you think that that's me? Like, that to me, believing that Brigham Young was a prophet of God is sure a ticket to hell. I
I
don't
mean,
get.
yeah. I mean, I don't believe in
Like, God
hell,
be
but
like,
yeah,
I don't want
I
my
get you.
prophets killing children.
No,
And
for
you think that
sure.
this man's your prophet? Go the fuck now. Like, God will send you to hell for believing in Joseph Smith, or not Joseph Smith, Brigham Young. Joseph Smith is his own thing, but Brigham Young is an evil, evil man.
Yeah,
Murderous bastard. Okay. And so anyone who says Brigham Young was a prophet of God, I'm like, no, he was an agent of the devil. How do you not know right and wrong? Like, to me, there's
yeah.
no question whatsoever. The Mormon church, I understand. Like, when I talk to my mom about this stuff, she says it's weird. Okay, there's this really weird thing. She doesn't believe it's true. She doesn't believe
No,
that Brigham Young isn't real or a prophet of God. She believes the historical accounting, which is found in the Mormon church. You can look up that Joseph Smith did this in the Mormon church. She doesn't believe that that's true.
no. I had
She
the same
knows
experience.
right and wrong.
Yeah.
She understands that that is not the actions of a prophet of God. She just does this other mental trick. She has faith that
No, I
there's
was gonna
another
tell you.
understanding.
This is the thing. My mom is the same thing. Like, I remember reading about, like, my brother and I read terrible things that Brigham Young said, terribly racist things, and my mom
Chopping the
just
heads
went,
off of mulatto children like my son. Yeah, that's fun.
I don't know that that's true, or I don't know that, and it was just
Yeah,
this weird denial. I mean, like, because basically he said that people who had interracial marriage should both be put to death. That's what Brigham
and
Young
their
said. He was
children. Or,
terrible,
but
and
then
their children.
he softened it to say that they should be like mules. So we should castrate them. So you know what?
Oh,
I
he
want
did. He
my authority.
softened
Like,
it.
maybe
Oh,
killing
good.
children is not okay. We should just castrate them. So one time the missionaries came over to my house because I have an interracial child. Missionary and I was drunk. They showed up and already drinking a bottle of wine. Like, I didn't.
Oh,
I'm just
no.
like, and then when the more missionaries come up, I was like, come on in. So my son comes out. He was when he was younger. He really liked to, especially if a girl had long hair. Or, okay, he loved Starbucks baristas, especially if they looked really cool and they had a lot of tattoos. He was just like, look at my truck. Can I say my Legos? Like, that was Karen, right? So
Uh-huh.
long hair or Starbucks baristas. He was just like,
Okay.
I have something to show you. So they were there, these girls with long, the sister missionaries with long hair, and he's doing somersaults and he's showing them all the Lego trucks. And he's doing this thing and he walks away and goes, you guys don't get his balls. What? Like Brigham Young said, the mulatto children, and then I fell off my stool and ran away crying. And my boyfriend at the time goes, you guys should come with me. And then I'm like, can we give you a book of money? He's like, sure.
Wait, go back. What did Kieran say?
There what I said.
Oh, no, I get it now. Oh my
He was going
God.
back to go get more toys to show them because that's how he flirted when he was 4, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, you're not getting his balls.
You said that?
I stool and ran away crying because I was so drunk. And
Oh
my
my God.
thank you.
Oh
Peter.
my God. Well,
Back to like 21. I was like, they don't even know. They have no idea. So Mormon
no, they have no
have no
idea.
idea about the dark parts of the Mormon church. It's funny when
So
they
so I should
I know
bring
more
up
about church than you do. Don't even start with me. But
yeah, no, so I should bring up that I was a Mormon
did
missionary.
you
It's
know
part of
about
actually why I'm a fan.
about the mulatto children and the chopping of the balls off? Did you know about
No,
that?
that one I didn't know, but someone left us a binder in one of the missionary apartments that had been there a long time, and I started reading about all of the weird shit, like the quote I just told you where the prophet said that going to the moon was like building the Tower of Babel. They don't say that now, but at the time that was the rhetoric around like um and like but it's weird because I think Joseph Smith said something about like people living on the moon, blah blah blah. Like, because there's a whole science fiction element to that, I
Oh yeah,
guess.
he's a
But
total science fiction bro. Total science
yeah,
bro. Okay.
yeah. But yeah, someone just left us this binder, and I don't know if their purpose was to help us see that Mormonism wasn't true or what it was, but it
I
had
think it's
all of the
probably to
hard
like guard you
things.
against what the common things were.
No, yeah, it helped me find a lot of the stuff, and I had an investigator. That's what they call people looking into the church, who was dating this Mormon girl, and he was like cool with the lessons and stuff. But he's like, "Yeah, did you know Joseph Smith was into the occult though?" And I'm like, "I mean, I've read kind of about that. I can't tell you a ton about it, but I could see that happening. Like
He tried
I
to
just I tried
dig
to
up
be
his
open
brother.
minded, but like also I didn't know what to say. Say what?
He tried to dig up his brother.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So he wasn't.
I don't think I knew that.
So what he liked. So he felt persecuted, or he wanted to feel. He felt self-victimized. So he was
Yeah,
really kind of weird and curious about Alvin when Alvin died.
yeah.
So he dug up his brother to kind of like play around with a dead body.
Oh my
He's just a
God.
weird dude. Okay.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
people found out about this and they were like, what the fuck, right? And then instead
mhm.
of saying, oh yeah, I just have a weird thing, I just trying to understand death, which is weird, but understandable. I think a lot of people are curious about death. He blamed it on his rivals. He did a red herring. He's just like, oh look, people are trying to attack me and get me. It's all my haters, right? Like shake it off and all that stuff,
he
right?
was
And
that
so,
girl
but he was
originally.
like, yeah, no, that's the shit he did. So he dug up his brother and then blamed it on his haters when he was caught instead of taking ownership of it. And so they called him a necromancer because he
Oh,
also went about with the Urim and Thummim. He just had two rocks and he thought they were the Urim and Thummim, trying to find gold. So this is the shit he did. He's like, hey guys, I have these like seer stones. I can like find gold on your property. And
so
so
why do they call him a gold digger?
because of that,
Sorry, I had to make a
yeah,
reference
no,
and joke too, but
he's a gold digger. Um,
I ain't saying he's a gold digger.
mhm. Yeah,
Wait, he was. That's the
he was. He
thing.
was quite literally a gold.
So did he actually have like a is there actually a Urim and
Yeah,
Thummim
he had a
like
Urim and Thummim, and he'd go
stones?
around to
The
people's
seer
houses and say,
stones.
"I've got
And they
seer
were the same
stones."
things he put in the hat to translate the Book of
I
Mormon,
think
right?
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he lied about those, but there's a lot of records of him trying to sell his magic. So, and I think what happened, he just kept trying a lot of things, and then something stuck, which was the first vision story. And then he's like, "Well, this is my story now." So, but yeah, so he was called a necromancer because he dug up his brother, and
Hmm.
so he's a weird dude, but like he's not Joseph Smith. I mean, not Brigham Young. So, like
Yeah.
for example,
So
he
yeah.
didn't I don't think he killed anyone, but like Brigham Young was a murdering bastard. Just so
Yeah,
you know.
no. I mean, Joseph Smith
He was a
was
cat. He was a charlatan. He was a cat.
he was
He
a
was
con
a
man.
gangster.
He was what was called a
Yeah,
confidence man.
yeah.
That like let's to be clear, like what Joseph Smith was a very good con man.
Mhm.
And sometimes yeah, I mean, he was charismatic, he was a lot of things, but yeah, Brigham Young is the true racist bastard, the next prophet.
Yeah, so Brigham Young, Joseph Smith actually ordained a black man and a woman to the priesthood.
Oh wow, I didn't know about the
You know that?
woman.
Yeah. So what happened was correlation. Correlation is how we got Brigham Young was like, no, black people can have the priesthood.
Really?
But Joseph Smith, he flip flop on that. He said some racist shit too, but like, he definitely wanted a black friend. So like a black man was like, yeah, actually, racist. You know, he just said whatever worked in the moment. So if he was around racists, he said racist shit.
Oh, see, I didn't know
But he
that part of it, but I'm not
he ordained
surprised.
a black man. He
Yeah.
absolutely did. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't like Joseph Smith,
No.
but I despise and loathe Brigham Young. I don't even
Right.
like saying I went to Brigham Young University.
No, like that's the thing. Like I got a email the other day, and it was like, oh, it's the 100 something year of Brigham Young's University, and I'm like, wow, talk about Confederate statues and things that need to come down. Like Brigham Young is just such a terrible person to like
So it was really
celebrate.
interesting. Speaking of hegemony, I was talking to somebody. I have a kind of a friend. I have to, so I can only do this for 20 more minutes. But
No,
I
it's okay.
was talking to a friend. He's left the church and he's going to that stage where he just like almost everything he says on Facebook is anti-Mormon, and his mom's like, stop. Like he'll even like say his secret name and stuff, and like mom's like, stop, right? So uh I was talking to his mom about something or other, and I talked about how Brigham Young killed the Timpanogos children.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, well, that's terrible for sure, but he built Salt Lake City, so we should be grateful. So that's really important to keep in mind. A
I
lot
actually don't
of
know
the,
this story about killing the children. I know a lot of other horrible things. You'll probably
yeah,
have to tell
so
me about this,
well,
unfortunately.
let me
But
look it up to make sure I got my facts right.
yeah,
Brigham Young, Timpanogos.
just as a
I think
footnote
he
to our
traded
discussion.
flour with glass in it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he enslaved the children.
Okay.
Out of the Timpanogos men.
This is an indigenous group in Utah. Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Pretty terrible. Battle of Fort Utah was a violent attack in which 90 Mormon militiamen surrounded an encampment of Timpanogos families on the Provo River one winter morning in late Caesar 2
Can I
days.
ask you what your source is real quick too?
Just
Just because we're.
Wikipedia. This is just
Oh,
Wikipedia.
okay, gotcha.
One militiaman died from return. The Timpanogos people fled the night. They escaped to Rock Canyon. They executed over 40 Timpanogos, the men were executed. Over 40 Timpanogos women, children, a few men were taken as prisoners to Fort Utah. They were and then sold as slaves to church members there. Then
Oh
later
my
on, it
gosh.
says there's a lot of retaliation. So he probably thought he was at war.
This
Then
brings
it
up
says they
another.
had an extermination order against the Timpanogos and killed all other Timpanogos they found in the valley.
Why was there an attack and they attacked
Yeah,
back?
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing is like Mormons and Brigham Young colonized the West, but like let's be honest, what that means is they committed acts of genocide.
Yeah.
That is Brigham Young's heritage.
So,
And
so it was really interesting what this Mormon was saying. She was like, well, I should be grateful because he built Salt Lake City. This is a thing that they do a lot. So, like, I remember a meme my cousin, who's Mormon, posted about AOC, about how ungrateful she was. This is the thing they say, grateful. So, if you complain about society, you're ungrateful to the people who built it. And there's this weird trick that the hegemony plays on people who are not actually committing the atrocities, is you're just like, someone had to commit this atrocity. Just be glad it wasn't you. I had to get my hands dirty for you, so don't take my statue down.
oh my god. And it's
I
so
mean,
weird
once
because Republicans
you see it
complain all the
everywhere.
fucking time. So why is it that like this Republican can complain about a fucking casting choice for the Little Mermaid, but AOC can't complain that there's like poverty in Brooklyn or whatever? Oh, she should be grateful because what?
Right. Well,
She's
you're
better
talking about
than
hypocrisy.
hegemony.
And for
Is
them,
that why? Is that
hypocrisy,
where your discourse is coming from? Like, let's just call it out. Like, the moment you said the thing about the Little Mermaid, like in my mind, it was just crystal clear. It's like, oh, they're mad because they're white supremacists. Like, that's what it is. Like,
yeah, and a lot of people don't think that white supremacy is racist. They think it's just the same thing as like black pride.
yeah,
They're just
no,
advocating for this team. They're just, it's just
no,
it's
no.
occultism. So I'm just like, I'm here for the, we're in solidarity. So they portray, and it's just weird because they portray that solidarity and the marginalized is somehow racist against them, and yet they do it too. Again, once you see it, you see it. So let me just kind of like bring this full center. So I'm really interested in talking about hegemony and power. The thing in the moment is gender. So, we had the gay marriage debate, and then, Joe Biden, went rogue and kind of forced Barack Obama's issue, forced Barack Obama's hand, and then Barack Obama had to come out and support the gay marriage, even though he wasn't quite ready. So thanks Joe Biden for that. I think it's funny when like baby queers like complain about Joe Biden. There's like, is he an ally? And I'm like, there's a lot of things to say about Joe Biden, but a gay ally, gay ally, Joe Biden is absolutely a gay ally. And then I tell them about this, and they're just like, oh.
Yeah, remember Obama had to evolve on it. Hillary Clinton had to evolve on this issue.
He had to evolve on it. Joe Biden's like, but I love Joe Biden. Like, I watched Will and Grace and realized gay people were people. Will and Grace. I love it. It's so Joe Biden, right?
That is good, yeah.
Yeah, it was funny, but like people forget this stuff. They really forget it, or they don't know it because they're baby gays, but baby queers. But anyway, so then we get the ruling from the Supreme Court: gay marriage is the law of the land. Like so quickly after, trans people didn't push the trans bathroom debate. I think it was South Carolina who was just like, well, we got to be angry about something now. So they're just like trans people in the bathroom. Actually, that actually wasn't from any trans activist. Up until this point, you know that it was not, I mean, sometimes it is not actually against the law to go into the bathroom that's not your assigned gender. It hasn't been. It's just like not culturally acceptable.
Yeah, right.
So they started doing this, right? Which causes all sorts of problems. Because first of all, I don't know, trans people have to pee. I don't know where they want them to go. So
yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, like, okay, so let's say that beard's gone. I am fully decked out as a woman. Which bathroom do you feel more comfortable with me in? Like, I'm non-binary. Like, I don't care. I love the non-gender bathrooms in California, but that's not the case everywhere. So I've actually had to deal with this on a practical debate, and it's just like, God, like, I can only imagine, like, feeling uncomfortable and unsafe all the time because I can pass. That's the thing, is I have the privilege of passing. Yeah.
You have pretty privilege.
I guess so.
So, but anyway, this was actually a faux outrage.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because like now there is an explosion of trans identity. There really is. And you can demonstrate that it started with this trans panic. But what I want to say to you is this is the new thing. It's always, so the hegemony plays this trick. They're like, if society changes, what's going to happen to the children? It's
my God, yeah.
There. If we have abolitionism and we get rid of slavery, what about the children? If
did they say that?
Voting, what about the children? If the gays get married, like they even talked about civil rights. The Black people have equal rights. What about the white children? And they even did Black children. Like there was even arguments. You can go back when there was some integration of society, Black children were killed. There are people who literally said we can't integrate society because we have to protect Black children from all that white racists. Like the children is literally a thing that the hegemony will always say when society is facing a societal change. And so now the current issue is gender. So now gender is like, well, who's going to think about the children? The transes aren't thinking about the children, which is fucking stupid. I have a child. Most of my friends are trans, and they give a shit about my child more than most of my straight people. But they're not like trying to like in any way. They're like, they literally like buy him instruments because he likes instruments, but they're not just like, hey, what's going with your son's sexuality? Is he, they literally don't care. They just want the best for him.
No, for sure. Like, so go ahead.
People are like, does he have a girlfriend? That's what the straight people do. Does your son have a girlfriend? And I was like,
right.
No.
They're all pressed about that. No, like you look at like DeSantis and like Florida is just such a shit show. Like, anti-woke education. Like,
Yeah.
not
So what's
only
woke?
like he has the audacity to tell college professors to be
Yeah.
anti-woke. Like, what the fuck does that
So
mean?
think
Like,
about that. So what does woke mean? It means woke is the social capital of the marginalized.
okay.
Okay. So
Interesting definition. I'm gonna have to
yeah.
think about that, but yeah.
So, like it's the new word that used to be political correctness. So political correctness was the social capital of the marginalized. So
Right.
being Black is beautiful. Social capital of the marginalized, the social capital the underdog has in all
But
society. The underdog. So there is a part of power that the hegemony will never have. They never get the sympathy of the marginalized, of being marginalized, and so they exhibit a lot of resentment for it. You get things like Mike
true.
Huckabee saying, well, if I knew I could go into ladies' restrooms by being trans, I would have done that. He's noticed they focus almost entirely on the one thing, even if it's not even a privilege whatsoever. If they can see that the marginalized has some social pressure, some social capital that they don't have, that's what they rail against.
Yeah, okay, so two thoughts. I want to come back to the definition of woke because I think it's interesting, and I'm not sure that's exactly how I define it, but I like where you're going with it. But I
It's
just
what
wanted to add
they
a note to
think.
what you're
That's
saying.
been unsaid on their end. It's just empathy. That's all it is. But it's
Say
what
what?
they, I should say their anger at wokeness is anger at the social capital of the marginalized.
Yeah. No, so like somebody said to me, it was a family member, and they're like, wow, like I wish we had straight people had like a hookup app like you gay people do, like Grinder, and it's like you could just like go on and get sex. I'm like, listen, the reason you can't have nice things is because of patriarchy. If you lived in a more enlightened society where you could communicate without being creepy and have sex, like I mean, gay people can't do that very well. Let me tell you, the Grinder isn't great. But it's just like they resented the fact that even though we're marginalized in all these ways, I had this thing that they didn't have. And I thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
No, that's what they'll say. I find it too sometimes. I'm going to be honest. I have a jealousy for Black women. They can wear makeup and be seen as so there's a thing in makeup, it's called wearable.
mm-hmm.
Wearable means makeup you could wear at the office. Okay.
Okay.
So I feel like Black women can look the way I want to look and be considered wearable. Look at me. I have jealousy for the fact that Black women can go to the office wearing yellow eyeshadow and it's socially acceptable.
There you go. There you go.
Bear me, I'm a problematic.
Look at that hypocrisy,
I
that gauche
know. I'm Gauche
caviar.
Caviar. I'm a raging hypocrite. So sometimes I'm just
Raging
like,
hypocrite.
just wear your makeup like you are a Black woman. And
Yeah. So what I was gonna coming back to woke, and sorry to interrupt what you're saying because it was all very good. Is that I think of woke a lot more in terms of like, oh, this is this person who's aware, this white person aware of social issues, and at least that's how I've seen the definition of woke. And like, I don't know that that is the definition, but like, it's interesting to see it from both angles, and like, it still is social capital of the marginalized, but like it's almost like so getting back to like DeSantis, it's like what's the point, right? Of banning books. And like I looked into like it's interesting, like LeVar Burton put out a thing together with other people and like librarians for like October against book bans and helping, you know, teenagers read the banned books because what books are banned? Let's be honest. It's anything that is by a person of color or a person who is queer or a queer person of color. Oh my god. Like one of the banned books is like I forget the exact title, but it's like the true story or the heritage of Henrietta Lacks. Because you're aware probably of like that they basically stole her DNA and did a lot of research with it, and this was a Black woman and didn't ever get financially compensated, or I don't think that was even consensual. So it's like, yeah. Anyways, there's a anything that could challenge hegemony is just shamelessly banned by these like white pastors or white wannabe evangelicals who knows what the fuck they actually believe or practice, but like just it's
Because it's
just
an
so
subversion
shameless.
of society. If you listen to them, they talk about the woke agenda is going to destroy society. What is society? The hegemonic order.
What's so funny, and this is the
This is
thing
how
that I
you get
get.
them going to Hooters
Uh-huh.
with their children, but then also being like transes are going to like, indoctrinate and sexualize the
Um,
children, and they're
no.
literally sexualizing children. It's okay if it's a white man doing the sexualization. That's why they're okay with priests, because
Yeah.
they're hegemonic.
Yeah, and like
It's not
the
smarter than this. It's really this stupid. It's this
it is this
stupid.
stupid, and like so like yeah, and like it brought that brings up like the whole hand job from Lauren Boebert in the theater. It's like, well, she's straight, so that's okay.
Mhm,
Like if I had been a gay public
mhm,
official had been, oh my god, the
mhm.
scandal, like, but it's
Yep.
like, oh, well, that's just a woman loving her husband. It's like, okay, it's sex in
Well, that
public.
wasn't her husband, first
I'm
of all.
not gonna be too. Girl, work, but also don't be an asshole about it. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't attack all these immoral people and then be doing this like sex in public thing with your husband, like whatever. But it's okay because it's straight, it's hegemonic, right?
Mhm.
And like the thing that's
And
the
white.
thing,
Yeah.
this is the thing that as a I this is gonna go back
So,
into
so
my
keep in mind, they
too.
also have associated Democrat with marginalized. Just keep that in mind. So if you're a Republican, in their mind, because you'll talk about them, it's like literally they quote Democrat with marginalization. They literally do that. They have a
Um
hard time. And if you think what's their problem with Joe Biden, and I think, and this is okay, this one I don't have, this one is just me thinking. I think the problem with Joe Biden is he was second to a black man.
Well, yeah, the crazy thing about the Obama presidency is the Republicans literally took their own health plan
I
and
know.
said, "Wow, a black man wants to pass this. We're not going to work with him and let him do anything."
Right. It's
It
just,
was just
yeah.
bald-faced racism. Like it was just that's it. Like
I
they
talked to
didn't want a
someone about,
black man to succeed.
I talked to this guy who, he's an interesting guy, but I was asking him about like, he's like, Trump's awful, and he's like, of course he's awful, but this is a culture war we have to win. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, Barack Obama started it. I'm like, what did he start? He's practically a Republican, come on. And he's
Yeah,
like,
right.
no, he's not. I'm like, well, what's the issue? And then he starts talking about it. He can't quite say it, but he starts talking about society and social order and all this stuff. And I'm like, is it that he's black? And he goes, no, that's okay that he's black. And I'm like, it's just that he used it. I'm like, oh, you're mad that he got votes because he was black. They don't think that's racist. They just think that's racist against white people. That Barack Obama, Barack Obama got social capital because he was marginalized. That's what they're mad about.
Let's
Literally,
so
that's what he told me.
I want to do an exercise. Let's translate right wing speech. Racist against white people means a threat to my absolute control of power over everything, or
Or my
a threat
relatives
to my
above me.
hegemony, right?
Yeah,
Not absolute control, but
yeah. They
threat to
just want to
my,
be above. Yeah.
yeah. So like it's not racist. Like it's a threat to their having control, and that's what they're really saying.
That's why they
And
say social order. That's why they're
yeah,
talking society. That's why they talk about that's the great replacement theory. It's not that I'm
yeah.
racist, it's just that I'm trying to protect me and mine. There's a lot of ways they talk about this, but that's what they're talking about. When you really listen, you can't find contradictions. You just can't find it. It's really so stupid. It's so stupid. And I have to teach in 2 minutes.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm going to try to interrupt Jackie a little less next time.
That's okay.
But so I want to talk about power, and Jackie wants to talk about gender panic. And I think these are go straight together because gender panic is the hot button issue. Because
Yeah.
gender questions around gender and gender identity and non-binary and trans people is an absolute subversion of the participation trophy of being born male. They can't handle
Yeah.
that. The fact that people are choosing to be male or actually choosing not to be male or choosing to disengage entirely threatens almost everything about hegemony. It is a
Well,
direct fact more than almost anything.
the thing that's so interesting about it is that simply by existing, and this is the danger too, simply by existing as a non-binary person, I'm a threat, which means that I am a target of violence. And that's the sad truth about this whole discourse is
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have to say anything. I just have to exist. And I'm going to. And I'm going to be
Yep.
fucking obnoxious. And
Yeah.
that's the point. But people will be threatened simply by not even what I do or say, simply by the fact that I exist. And that's when you know they're wrong.
Yeah.
But also that it's a really scary thing
It's
and scary
terrifying.
time to be and terrifying time to be in. So
I just want to say one thing. So I know that Gauche Caviar kind of sounds a little bit like I'm moderate. I'm not.
no, I know.
We're not moderate.
No, we are not
We are
moderate.
raging hypocrites because we both want glitter eyeshadow.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
gonna
and I
send you
want to
this.
look fabulous and I'll put on
Yes.
makeup too in
Yes.
one of these
All right.
podcasts. And like I just have to end with like, no, we're good. The time's done.
No, go ahead. And you end it, babe.
No, just the idea with like, so what is DeSantis really mad about? It's really a message to other white people to shame them into staying away from helping people that will
Attack on empathy.
it's an attack on empathy. And you wonder why the fuck is the right so heartless and why is it an attack on empathy? Because they literally
It's
don't want to
them.
give up control
Yeah.
because they
Threat
know
to
they're
power.
wrong. And so they just double down on it and they scream louder. So,
Bye, my friend.
all right, goodbye.